Hey, so for the Christians, if you know, you know the story of the Samaritan woman. And I just want to dig in, digest what I received today, and actually something that I've really been pondering on when it comes to this story. And so within John 4 is the story of the Samaritan woman. And there is one part that stuck out to me, and where Jesus tells this woman, "You know not what you worship." And I was like, Jesus, why would you say that to her? Like, why she does not know what she worships. And she has this idea that she's at Jacob's well. So she has this idea of the God of Jacob. But Jesus tells this woman, you know not who you worship. So, of course, the Bible is always confirming itself. And so I went back into Old Testament, and in Second Kings, you'll find within the Samaritan area that, well, let's just start here. Let's stop for a second. So within John, Jesus says that he must go to Samaria. And then let's go back to Old Testament, where Samaria was a portion of land that was given unto the Israelites. And so it's just interesting that Jesus is like, I have to go back to Samaria. And so what we find is that in Second Kings, read your Bible, you'll know. And we'll find in Second Kings that the Israelites were completely removed out of this Sychar, which is an area within Samaria. And the king of Assyria had placed 3 different nationalities into that area. But because they didn't know the God of the land, and they did not fear, nor did they reverence God, that God sent lions upon that land to destroy the people of that land. And so because they couldn't understand this, the king of Assyria had told them to bring back a prophet, an Israelite prophet, into the land to teach the people how to worship God. And so what we find further in that text is that these people so they worshiped God, but then they also worshiped their gods. And so they had, I guess you can't really say an intellect, because Jesus tells the woman, you don't know who you worship. But they had this, I guess, knowing of God, not knowledge. They had a knowing of God, but they didn't have the knowledge of God. And so they did, though they knew of God, they still worship their other gods. And what was also interesting about that was because it said their children's children continued this. They continued to worship their gods and have a knowing of God. And that stuck with me, because I was just like, the importance that Jesus, listen, the truth is, it's about territory. Even in what we're seeing and experiencing right now, is about territory. Jesus said it is imperative for me to go through Samaria. Nobody understood, even as he was talking with the Samaritan woman, and they knew, within Jewish laws, that they shouldn't even be having a conversation, that Jesus found it imperative to have this conversation with this woman, to give her the true knowledge. Because even in the verse in John, there's a verse in John where Jesus says, there will come a time where you will worship in spirit and truth. And Jesus, I'm going to leave it right there. So if y'all have any thoughts on that, go ahead. Let's comment. Let's talk about that, because that resonated with me. More so the fact that people could still worship other gods, having a knowing of other gods with a little g, and having a knowing of God, and not knowing that it's the practices that were within worshiping these other gods with the little g, that people didn't really resonate. That's why they couldn't come into the full knowledge of God, is because of the practices of these other gods that were still within their hearts. And Jesus, save us. So, anyways, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Y'all, yeah, let's talk about that. Let's have a discussion. That's crazy.